We got this from the Post-Millennial. Officers abandoned roof where Trump would-be assassin took aim because it was too hot. Whistleblowers. They report.
Weak.
Josh Hawley has the story. Whistleblowers have revealed to Hawley that on the day of the attempted Trump assassination, law enforcement personnel were allegedly supposed to be stationed on the roof where Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire, but abandoned the area, citing concerns over the heat. Since my last correspondence to you on July 19th, additional whistleblowers have contacted my office with troubling information about the assassination attempt on former President Trump. And this is the post right here. I don't buy it.
All an inside job.
I don't believe it.
It is.
This is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. That law enforcement was actually on the roof and they decided it was hot and they would leave. I don't believe it, because it was hot for every other officer, the snipers on all the different rooftops, the cops in every position. It was hot for every single one of them and they weren't in shade, but these two just happened to leave. Okay.
It was hot for Trump too.
It was hot for Trump too. And they knew there was a threat and Trump said they never told him. All this says to me is they have no legitimate reason as to why law enforcement bailed from that roof. I think it was on purpose.
Mm-hmm. It was an inside job.
You cannot reasonably conclude anything else. Let's begin. Thomas Matthew Crooks is the alleged shooter. He shows up with a drone and a rangefinder. He is spotted flying a drone. They report. They knew he was flying. So maybe I'm going to be very, very careful. He was flying a drone 3 hours before the event, or he was spotted 3 hours before the event, but he was flying a drone before the event. We don't know if they located the drone or knew he was flying it, but law enforcement has reported he flew a drone over the event. How does law enforcement not see a drone flying around, assess why it's flying around, especially around the president or former president and political candidate, which it should be a no-fly zone? They didn't address this. He's identified 3 hours before with a rangefinder, 1 hour before with a rangefinder. They took a picture of him. 26 minutes before, once again, he's listed as suspicious and he's got a rangefinder. Another photo was taken. 10 minutes before, they upgrade him to a threat. 10 minutes later, they release Donald Trump to go out and speak with an active threat. That right there. Stop everything else. Ignore everything else. With an active threat identified by the Secret Service, they said, go ahead, Trump. Walk on stage. Mm-hmm. How is that not intentional? How is it not an inside job?
Time to shine.
Yep. I think it's chaos, it's evil planning and incompetence. And it's the people who are planning these things exploiting the costume of incompetence. And they're allowing it to happen.
A story that I really like to bring up is Turkey, as well as what I think just happened recently in Bolivia. But in Turkey, there was a coup attempt against Erdogan 10 years ago. And was this 10 years ago? I believe this was probably like 8 years ago, actually. A bunch of soldiers crossed the Bosphorus Bridge, and then a helicopter gunship opened fire on them. The media was reporting it was a coup. Local residents, civilians came out, beat the crap out of the troops, dragged them through the streets. The rumor was, it wasn't a coup. Someone ordered low-level soldiers to occupy a bridge to guard from a terror attack. They said, you got it, boss. Then told the media it was a coup, so they murder and beat to death these troops who had no idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. That is the exploitation of infrastructure and logistics. In this instance, there were cops on the rooftop that left because it was hot. I don't believe that for 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. I think it could be simply that someone in a logistical position said, hey, you guys, you're looking a little hot up there. Maybe you should come down and get some water. There's no way where the shooter was with easy access and a ladder. No other officers anywhere else abandoned their post, just here where the shooter went. All these coincidences line up. It doesn't mean that any of these officers are in on it. How does Donald Trump get released from holding with an active threat? Because the Secret Service agents with Donald Trump go, what's going on, guys? Do we still have a threat? And they're like, no, you're good. Send him out. Mm-hmm. And they go, okay, you're good to go. And the threat was still active.
That's how I feel about the Biden thing, the assassination attempt, something like East Palestine, Maui, Epstein. It's like utter incompetence with something sneaking in to like carry out the plan. You know, like the East Palestine, to me, was allowed to happen because they got rid of all this manpower and then they stopped inspecting train cars. So the people who would have caught the wheel bearing that was melting, that would then make the train derail, incompetence. And then they didn't even need to blow it up. You know, all these things are allowed to happen out of fear or incompetence, but I think there's something behind
organized incompetence.
Yeah, to help the organized, controlled collapse.
You find an easy way to explain away the fact that somehow a 20-year-old kid had a drone and a rangefinder and shows up, surveils this entire property this rally with drone tech, which should be a no-fly zone, is identified but never stopped, climbs on the roof, is confronted by officers, but they never warn Trump. They never pull Trump off the stage. A really great point made in the hearing today. I can't remember who made it, but they said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe, civilians at the Trump rally 2 minutes before the shooting were screaming, he's on the roof, he's got a gun. And so regular people identified a threat. The Secret Service did not. How is that possible? That's a really great point.
Well, I have been directly sitting behind President Trump at his rally in Ohio, and I can tell you from personal experience that this was an inside job because there are snipers on every roof in every strategic position around the perimeter. It is a sealed perimeter. And that's the thing. Only 2 snipers. I usually say 6 or 4.
No, they're saying there were like four teams or more.
Yeah, but they didn't see anything. Clearly, they didn't neutralize the threat. They were supposed to neutralize the threat. That's the whole job title, to protect the president.
That was a question I think Marjorie Taylor Greene also had. Why did they not neutralize the threat? And what's her name? Cheadle. She's like, upon identifying the threat, she's like, no. Regular people identified the threat 2 minutes before he opened fire. How did you not?
Mm-hmm. Cheadle said some weird stuff during the hearing today. I mean, I think it's telling that at the end, Comer, who was in charge of it, was like, well, we are having a bipartisan moment. We're all dissatisfied with your testimony today. I mean, she said, and this is what's so strange to me, that she did not speak to the Secret Service point person who was there that night. What were we doing here? Right. You have one job and you guys failed and you didn't talk to anyone who was on the ground. It seems odd. Unless, again, she either is just that incompetent or she had information about what was going on ahead of time and therefore didn't feel the need to talk to these people.
I think she's the sacrificial lamb.
It felt that way. It felt that way.
Even she went to the RNC. Why would you go to the RNC
humiliation
after?
ritual?
She still hasn't been a butler. I mean, I find that fascinating.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I was interested by all the questions about her using Signal with people perhaps at the White House. Mm-hmm. What kind of lines of communication are you having? That they a bunch of them were asking her that.
Let's just start simply. The women that were trying to guard Trump did not have large enough bodies to shield him. You'll notice when he jumps down, the Secret Service jump all over him. Talk about a commendable and amazing job. And I am deeply inspired by the Secret Service agents who threw their body on top of Trump, knowing that they are doing that to save this man's life at the expense of their own. That is bravery. And with that being said, to these brave women, which I have tremendous respect for, they are too small to provide adequate cover for Trump.
They're incompetent.
It's not an issue of capability. I shouldn't say that. They are mentally competent people, I believe, but they are not physically competent. And I don't mean to say that they are in any way handicapped or incapable. I'm saying their bodies are small. Right. That's just it.
I am 5'5". I will never go and register or even try to become a Secret Service agent and then try to protect President Trump. He's like 6'2", 6'3". Exactly.
Yeah. You're going to be standing up, putting your hands up like this, and they're going to be like, we got a clear shot. Like, that's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And it's unfortunate that we're playing this DEI game. And I don't think DEI is the reason why this happened. I'm just saying, after the fact, you see these women trying to provide cover for Trump. And again, they are brave, and I respect that, but they should not have that job.
They couldn't even holster their weapon.
I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. A question I have for all of you. I'll just tell you my answer. If I am in the 3rd story of a burning building, and I can't see or breathe because there is smoke everywhere, and I crawl up to a door, and the door gets kicked open, and the smoke rushes out, and I look up. If I see a 5'5" woman, I would cry. You know what I want to see?
Me too.
I want to see a 6'5", glistening, ripped man with a hairy chest looking down at me and winking and saying, "Don't worry, Tim."
We need those toxic masculine men to come back and make America great again.
Those are the guys with Trump at the RNC.
Exactly. And I love seeing them. I don't want to see women on the Secret Service. With all due disrespect.
I'm with you.
Like the door kicks open and I'm like, you're not going to be able to save me. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'll tell you this. To be fair, if the door got kicked open and it was a 5'5", 110-pound man, I would be like, come on, dude. Right. Am I going to carry you out of this? No, I want to see a 6'5", ripped dude grab me with one hand and throw me over his shoulder and say, "I'm saving your life, little buddy." I'm like, you call me whatever you want. Save me from a fire.
Cheadle assured us today that these women were professional and could do their jobs, though. So
she couldn't even do her job.
What you're talking about?
She couldn't even do her job. Also, there's a reason why SEAL Team 6 is all men.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I don't see a SEAL Team 6 women.
Well, if Kamala gets in. You just might.
Unburdened. By what happened?
No, to be fair, I mean, there is a component of warfare where women serve a role on the front lines. You just might need like 35% more women to accomplish what less men might accomplish.
I agree.
And again, this is not about women being less capable. I'm talking about quite literally bone mass, muscle density, and there's an advantage women have in certain kinds of combat, and that would be higher body fat percentage means that they can remain stationary for longer periods of time in certain areas. So some reconnaissance might be better. Women have a lower threat profile, so espionage could work out really well, especially exploiting men who are too stupid and give things up. The Black Widow.
Hunter? Like with Hunter?
Hunter Biden?
Yeah, like with Hunter and all those women.
He was being spied on? Yeah. I mean, like
No, not spied on, but
like women make great spies.
Swalwell is a good
right.
example.
Fang.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I was reading about the Donner Party, and the reason why the men died first is because they're doing more work, they have more muscle mass, so they die of starvation really quickly, and the women have more body fat and survive longer. That's just reality. That can translate into combat. But when we're talking about jobs for specific people, we are not talking about endurance guards for Donald Trump who can stand guard outside of a desert palace for a week without eating. We're talking about men who are large enough to take a bullet for the man and provide him adequate cover.
Yeah, and you've heard, I mean, there's been interviews with Eric Trump praising the women, saying, one in particular has served on his detail. He's a good relationship with her.
He's being nice.
I think part of it is there is a difference between the agents that are within the Trump family's detail that they have a relationship with, that they know personally, and the overarching Secret Service that's still attached to DHS that comes in to provide supplementary support for large events. And so, I think, and we had Lo and Barbara on saying, these women aren't typically assigned to this. They jumped in because there was, I guess, a gap.
It was regional, right? They were picked because they were in the area.
Yeah, I mean, when you have bigger events, you need more people.
Yeah.
What I found really fascinating was Saturday morning, CNN was reporting that Trump's team, and I don't know if that was a reference to his campaign or I assume it was his Secret Service team, didn't know that a threat had been identified before they sent him out on stage. Wow. Which means that Secret Service agents, or at least people that are directly around and offering support to President Trump, didn't know that something was happening that other people who were at the same event knew. There's a breakdown in communication that is just unacceptable.
At the end of the day, there are jobs for men and there are jobs for women. I wouldn't let a man babysit my child.
Well, I don't have a problem with that.
No,
I
wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
You wouldn't?
I would not let a man babysit my child.
Why not?
I don't trust anybody, especially not men.
Would you? So a random woman?
No, well, I would vet anyone who's going to be around my kids, but I just think a man who's going to be a babysitter, I don't trust.
That's a job for a woman.
Yeah.
That's okay to say it.
Yeah. Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I would say like the order of trust would be like from the least to the most. An adult man, least. An adult woman, next least. A young woman, or a younger man would be less, and then a younger woman would be the most. So like if there was like a younger guy who needed extra cash and was like, yeah, I could probably hang out. I trust that more than like an adult man being like, I'll watch your kids for you.
I would do that for my dogs. A man.
Your dogs.
Yeah, not
We'll
for my
start
children.
there. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I agree. It doesn't matter what they have experience, honestly.
Look, and I can tell you, as someone who babysits Shane's kids, like there was a background check. It was really intense.
This is
I'm
true.
Not, like,
yeah. Hannah Claire passed.
Tell us more.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I mean, like, the
they love
thing
you.
is, like, yeah, your kids are great. I mean, the thing is, like, parents are really discerning, especially good parents, because we are aware of the dangers, right? And if you're going to go statistically, like women are more empathetic, women tend to have more experience with children. Like there's a reason that you would default to being like an adult woman or a young, a college age babysitter. But with the Secret Service, I agree there are things that they might be good at. Like I don't understand why Crooks didn't have a plainclothes officer following him around, and this doesn't seem to be something that's come out. That could have been a woman who was just like very detail oriented, which
Scouting.
women are,
Because it was
being
on
like,
purpose.
where is he going?
Yes.
And so I think with all of this, like we can't conflate the idea that like people are all the same. We talk about this in terms of immigration, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, you're filling a spot and you'll do the same job that someone else is doing. Like who is in the role matters.
I got really offended last night. I went to the local frozen custard shop. There's this really great thing in Inwood, West Virginia, and it's like this little frozen custard. And as I was waiting in line for my peanut butter caramel sundae, I couldn't help but notice the lack of diversity in this ice cream shop.
You didn't see a rainbow flag?
It was only women. It was only older teenage women that were making the ice cream. And I said, first of all, there are no black men making ice cream in here. What's up with that? And in all seriousness, I actually did notice, I thought it was funny. I was like, here's a job that for some reason only young women wanted to apply for.
Also, Hooters. Who
Very.
they hire.
Well, there have been men who have gotten hired and then they've regretted it. But my point is this. As I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, I know why guys aren't making ice cream for people because they're doing labor jobs. Because
We're building infrastructure.
it's not even that. A
Taking care.
17-year-old kid gets a job offer. They say, "Hey, I need some help moving some wood from my back porch, or I got a wood delivery in the front. It's going to take about an hour to lift all of the wood back. We're building a deck. Do you want to help me move the wood? We'll pay you $50." The kid goes, "Okay."
Yeah.
He doesn't go to the ice cream shop and say, "I'm going to make ice cream." He gets, because the offers he's getting are aligned with a young man's capabilities. And so the young women are then the ones who are applying to make ice cream for people. I think a really interesting stat is that 100 years later, after suffrage, women hold the exact same jobs they did 100 years before, even with women's liberation and everything. There's more female CEOs, right? They wasn't a thing back then, but women are still overwhelmingly in nursing, education, and like social related jobs.
But I'm going to be honest. The women have feminized everything. And I do not like that.
What do you mean?
Like bringing all of the gay garbage, DEI, allowing that to happen.
I actually,
Incompetent female
I think that's
CEOs.
men. I think men did that. I think
We're pushed by women too.
I disagree. I think Rockefeller was notorious for this 100 years ago. Something Luke Rutkowski talks quite a bit about. They wanted to double the tax base. They said, we right now have one man. Let's get both of them working. And then you have the Malthusians
Breaking the nuclear family.
Right, because the Malthusians in the 70s were like, how do we stop people from having kids? They're having too many kids. Put women in the workplace and they will not have kids. And they've succeeded, and now this country is on the verge of imploding. Legit. So let me tell you guys something. I did a segment earlier talking on my morning show talking about skateboarding. And there is skateboarding is dying. Skateboarding is a really great example of get woke, go broke, though wokeness didn't completely destroy skateboarding. It was brought into it, likely to try and save it, like many other industries, and it is strangling the life out of it, making people hate it. Little kids don't want to be involved. The virtue signaling, the gatekeeping, the online hatred is just too much for people. But there is one really big reason why skateboarding is dying. There are no kids. Mm-hmm. So what's happening now is, and understand this, everybody, as fertility declines, you are going to have an increasingly a decreasing amount of new people to fill any cultural role. This means that money available for the music industry will shrink. For baseball, for football, for basketball, shrink. We are going to see the age of NFL players, basketball players go up, or their average skills go down because the talent pool will be much, much smaller. They're going to want to retain older talent. One thing I pointed out a while ago was that meme about Abe Simpson telling Homer, I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what it is scary to me, and it'll happen to you too. That's not going to happen because market share for Millennial and Gen Z is greater than for Gen Alpha, because Gen Alpha is, I think, going to be the first time that a generation is smaller than the past. We're seeing this, it's a bubble of Millennial and Gen Z. It's boomers, Millennials smaller, Gen Z is smaller, and then Gen Alpha is even smaller. So this means when music promoters are going to fill a stadium, they ask, what is the headlining band that is going to sell 90,000 tickets? Metallica. Okay, but what about this new metal band of 20-year-olds called like Metal Smash? And they're going to be like, nope, because there's not enough 20-year-olds that pay attention to new music. They're going to want to buy the tickets. So we're going to cater to the 60 million plus millennials, not the 40 million Gen Alpha. We'll make more money that way. So there's going to be a massive competition among all sports and subcultures for the increasingly smaller pool of young people to fill the ranks and replace them. And that is going to be nuts.
It's like it's going to mirror DC, right? With all the older people in DC, a lot of older people in DC.
Yes.
Like every institution is going to be older. I also think an underground will emerge too, because I am seeing a lot of like, say, metal bands in particular, like a band like Knock Loose right now. They got a huge following, and that's more underground, but they are huge. And I see a lot of kids who love it, but it's I don't know how big that'll get.
But don't get me wrong, there will be fame to a certain degree.
Right.
But look at the ratings of TV shows 20 years ago. Tens of millions estimated, if assuming the ratings tracking is correct. Right. And now television shows get barely any. Look, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love the show, right? They've been on forever. Their early episodes were getting millions. Now they get a couple 100,000 per episode.
Mainstream media is dying, which is why it's so important, independent media, such as your podcast.
Yes, but we're never going to grow bigger and past that point. We will never be as big as the biggest shows that used to be. It's just not going to happen. And it's a combination of older people the reason why Fox News still gets like 1 million or whatever, Hannity gets a couple million, is because of the 65 plus crowd. See, the key demo for all of these channels is microscopic. And so ultimately the point is this: it doesn't matter if it's skateboarding, doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, or otherwise, there are not enough kids to fill the ranks. So school teams are going to start disbanding. They're going to say, well, we didn't get enough kids. The classrooms are going to get smaller. You're going to see schools consolidate with large classrooms just to save space. You're going to find ghost towns popping up all over the place in the next 20, 30 years because there are no kids. And I noticed something else.
They've been aborted.
I wonder if you've noticed this, Shane. You've been flying. Have you noticed that the family restrooms in airports have turned into all gender bathrooms?
Yeah, I see it a lot. I
said at the RNC.
I also noticed how a lot of cities are childless. The second to last trip we took to Austin, Nancy and I walked around. There were no kids. Like, there's no kids in strollers. The parks were empty.
McDonald's used to have play places.
Dead now.
You would go to McDonald's to eat, and the kids would go and play in the slides in the ball pit. But I was in Chicago, where we were flying back from Milwaukee, and there's the men's room and the women's room, and then I see all gender, and it's got the man, woman, and then a half man, half woman sign, and I was like, that was the family restroom.
It's a diaper changing room.
A diaper changing room. Yeah. And you go in, it still is, but they relabeled it. Why? Because of demand. It's not because they're saying we don't want a family restroom. It's not because it's a conspiracy. It's because when the pressure was applied, they said, how many families do we have using the family restroom? And they go, honestly, very few. Okay, well, the gender people want their own bathrooms, so just flip them because demand is higher for all gender bathrooms.
Right. We rebranded family to the pronoun people. Right.
And
we have given up on common sense. We have given up on, we have given everything to these lunatics. And that's why I'm not nice to any of them.
Jack Posobiec talks about Pizza Hut nationalism.
Yeah.
Why did we have Pizza Huts like that? Because people had families. They'd go out to family dinner. Why is Pizza Hut now a walk-in, pickup or delivery only? Because people do not go out to dinner. And there's a combination of lack of resources to do it, but also people don't have families anymore. It is going to be absolutely bonkers as our economy is shifting towards catering to the elderly and the dying generation instead of kids, because historically, every economy has catered to children. So I was talking to someone about why it's so hard to raise kids, and they're saying, well, the reason is it's too expensive. You know, getting the things you need for kids is so expensive that people don't want to do it. And I said, that's a cascade effect.
That's a mentality that has been put on us.
No, it's a cascade effect of economics. If every family needed child diapers, then there would be mass production and surplus, and the prices would go down. But because there are less and less kids, manufacturing, in order to cut a profit, it becomes premium products. And they say, look, we used to sell 1 million diapers, and it would cost us $1 to make each diaper. If we sell them for $2, we make $1 million and we can cover our costs and make a profit. Now we're selling 100,000 diapers, and if we sell them for $2, we're only going to make 100 grand on top of the 100 grand we have to spend. 100 grand will not sustain our office buildings. It will not sustain our employee benefits. It will not sustain the HR department. So we have to sell them for $10 to make up that loss, or $20 or more. So now it's even more expensive, and people can't afford to get baby food or these products, because our society used to be massively catering to children because everybody had many of them and the demand was high. And now demand is low, the products become more expensive, and the people say, I can't afford to have kids. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.